The forest at dusk is a world in transition. The last beams of sunlight slant between the trunks of old oaks, painting streaks of gold across the bark before surrendering to the shadowed underworld below. The air hangs heavy with the dampness of a midsummer evening, carrying with it the faint sweetness of tree sap and the earthy musk of decomposing leaves. For a brief window between the retreat of the birds and the rise of nocturnal hunters, another cast of creatures takes the stage. Their arrival is not subtle. The first sign is a hollow clattering sound, like wood striking against wood. Then, from the hazy orange sky, dark shapes appear. Male stag beetles, the largest beetles in Europe, descending toward the sap-bleeding wounds of an ancient oak. Their flight is unmistakable. With bodies that can stretch more than 7 centimeters, the males beat their stiff wings with a clumsy persistence, producing a droning buzz that seems out of proportion to their size. They do not land gracefully, but rather crash against bark or leaves, rights themselves with jerks of their spindly legs, and finally find purchase on the rough tree surface. Yet these ungainly entrances are quickly forgotten when they raise their heads and display the remarkable structures for which they are named. The antler-like mandibles that curve upward from their heads, jagged at the tips, like the tines of a deer. It is tempting to imagine those antlers as cutting tools, weapons designed to pierce or shred. But the reality is subtler and more impressive. The mandibles of a stag beetle are not blades but levers, built for grappling. Their elongated shape increases mechanical advantage, allowing a beetle to pry and lift an opponent much as a wrestler uses leverage rather than brute force. When two males meet on the same strip of bark, weeping with sugary sap, they circle with jerky caution, antennae twitching as they sense the other's chemical signals. Then the clash begins. In slow motion, illuminated by a shaft of moonlight, the mechanics are clear. One beetle lunges forward, hooks his mandibles beneath the thorax of the rival, and tightens the grip. Muscles rooted deep within the head and neck contract with startling strength. The mandibles pivot upward, and the rival is pried away from the bark, lifted with the precision of a crowbar, wedging loose a nail. Tarsal claws, tiny grappling hooks at the tips of the legs, dig deep into the tree's surface, anchoring the victor as he executes the flip. The loser dangles briefly in the air before tumbling to the leaf litter below, wings buzzing in a futile attempt to catch balance. The battles are rarely lethal. Unlike predatory beetles with slicing jaws, the stag beetle's antlers are poorly suited for cutting. Instead, these contests are tournaments of strength and stamina, demonstrations staged for the benefit of the true prize, the females who gather at the sap flows. Female stag beetles are smaller, darker, and far less ornamented. They lack the cumbersome antlers, bearing only short, sharp mandibles for chewing. Yet their presence defines the stakes of every clash. A female will examine the males not only by their immediate success at the sap site, but also by the size and symmetry of their antlers. To her, these structures are honest signals of the hidden anatomy that matters most, the musculature beneath. Indeed, the antlers themselves are less weapon than advertisement. What determines victory is the engine housed within the beetle's head and thorax, the muscles that control the base of the mandibles. In proportion to body size, stag beetles have some of the most developed mandibular muscles of any insect. This investment comes at a cost. The males' heads are disproportionately large and heavy, their bodies awkward in flight, their energy spent not in foraging, but in fueling the nightly battles. Yet natural selection has rewarded this trade-off because those with the strongest head muscles, and therefore the ability to hold territory, are the ones most likely to pass on their genes. As the evening deepens, the oak becomes a miniature coliseum. Sap is a rare and coveted resource, rich with sugars and fermenting alcohols that attract insects of every kind. Moths, wasps, hornets, and small beetles all gather to sip from the wounds. But the stag beetles dominate the stage. Pheromone trails, laid down earlier in the season, guide newcomers to the tree. These chemical signatures, released from abdominal glands, linger like invisible paths through the forest understory. Once a male has secured his grip on a sap patch, he defends it tirelessly, fending off rivals in repeated grappling bouts until the night cools and activity wanes. For the females, choice is measured and deliberate. They test not only the vigor of the males, but also the quality of the sap flow itself. Once mating occurs, their attention shifts away from the oak's bleeding bark to the soil beneath it. Here, they dig shallow burrows where eggs are deposited near decaying wood. The larvae that hatch will spend several years hidden underground, feeding on rotting roots and woody debris. Unlike their flamboyant fathers, the larvae are pale, soft-bodied grubs, utterly dependent on the availability of deadwood in the ecosystem. And here lies the vulnerability of this spectacle. The stag beetle is an insect tied intimately to old forests, to the slow cycle of growth, death, and decay. Its larvae require years to mature, chewing through rotting timber before pupating and finally emerging as adults for a brief summer season of flight and mating. Yet modern landscapes rarely allow for such patience. Deadwood is often cleared from forests and parks, considered unsightly or hazardous. Light pollution from cities disrupts nocturnal orientation, confusing beetles that once navigated by the moon. Road networks further fragment their habitats, and many males perish in collisions as they clumsily cross illuminated clearings. Conservationists now recognize the stag beetle as more than a curiosity. In much of Europe, it is a protected species, monitored as an indicator of forest health. Where stag beetles thrive, so too does the hidden ecosystem of fungi, bacteria, and invertebrates that recycle wood into soil. Efforts to protect them are surprisingly straightforward, leaving fallen logs to decay, reducing artificial lighting near ancient woodlands, and maintaining corridors of habitat that allow the beetles to disperse. Each measure acknowledges that the grandeur of the stag beetle's antlers is built upon the humblest of foundations, the quiet, slow breakdown of wood. As night fully claims the forest, the oak sap slows and the crowd disperses. Bats emerge overhead, snatching moths from the air, while tawny owls call from the canopy. On the forest floor, the fallen rivals of earlier battles clamber upright and attempt to ascend the tree once more, driven by instincts as old as the oaks themselves. Their battles may appear ritualistic, even theatrical, but they are anchored in the logic of survival and reproduction. The antlers at dusk are not ornaments alone. They are the visible edge of a deeper evolutionary contest, one that ties muscle to mandible, forest to insect, and the fate of a beetle to the fate of its woodland home. In this way, the stag beetle embodies the paradox of nature's designs. An insect both cumbersome and majestic, its battles both violent and strangely restrained, its life cycle both fleeting and enduring. Each summer evening when the clattering flight announces their arrival, the forest is briefly transformed into an arena where ancient oaks, bleeding sap, and antlered beetles converge in a performance of strength, endurance, and fragile continuity. To watch them is to glimpse evolution's patient hand at work, not in the slicing of jaws or the speed of wings, but in the quiet leverage of antlers at dusk. The forest understory in late summer is alive with color and movement, though much of it lies hidden beneath the broad leaves of shrubs and hedgerows. On the underside of a hazel leaf, a small insect rests in stillness, its form shaped by the peculiar marriage of geometry and armor. Its back gleams in iridescent green, as if burnished by a jeweler's hand, while the triangular scutellum spreads across the thorax like a medieval shield. This is a shieldbug, an insect often overlooked for its modest size, but remarkable for the suite of defenses it carries, an organism whose survival is stitched into the interplay of armor, chemistry, and deception. Seen in close detail, the shieldbug resembles a wedge of living enamel. The scutellum, an extended plate of the thorax, gives the insect its name. This shield is no passive decoration. Its angled surface provides a measure of deflection against probing beaks and snapping jaws. A bird that strikes at such an insect may find its bill glancing off the hard carapace, the shieldbug slipping deeper into the leaf litter below. Evolution has furnished this insect with the physics of armor, angles that redirect force, surfaces that absorb impact, and an exoskeleton whose hardness is supported by the resilience of chitin fibers. Yet physical protection is only one layer of its survival strategy. Beneath the shield lies a more sinister arsenal. Along the abdomen, paired glands open through tiny pores, each connected to reservoirs of volatile chemicals. When threatened, the shieldbug releases a spray of this liquid into the air, vaporizing instantly into a pungent cloud. The odor is acrid, clinging and unmistakable, a stink that has earned these insects the common name stink bugs in many languages. To predators, the message is simple. This prey is not worth the cost. Birds cough and wipe their beaks on branches. Spiders recoil. Lizards gape in displeasure. Even human fingers that dare to pick one up will carry the ghost of its chemical warning long after the insect has flown away. The secretion does more than repel. It also functions as a communication tool. Within shieldbug colonies, the same glands can emit lighter releases of odor that act as alarms, alerting nearby conspecifics to danger. A single individual under attack can therefore broadcast a chemical siren across the leaf canopy, triggering a ripple of evasive movements among its kin. In this way, the defense doubles as a social adaptation, ensuring that survival is not an isolated effort, but a collective one. The shieldbug's body is designed not only for defense, but also for feeding with surgical precision. Hidden within its head is a proboscis shaped like a needle, technically called a stylet. This stylet is capable of piercing tough plant tissues and extracting the juices within. Shieldbugs are especially fond of seeds, where nutrients are concentrated in compact stores. To feed, the insect braces its legs, lowers its head, and slides the stylet between plant cells. Saliva rich in enzymes softens the tissue, while the pump-like pharynx draws liquid food upward into the gut. It is a mode of feeding both efficient and destructive, for the punctured seeds often shrivel, their viability compromised by the feeding wounds. Farmers have long noticed the consequences in crops. Rice grains mottled and shrunken, beans rendered bitter by the punctures of shieldbugs. What appears delicate at the scale of a single insect becomes impactful at the scale of entire fields. Yet even within this apparent simplicity of form, variation abounds. Shieldbugs are masters of seasonal adaptation, shifting colors as temperatures and day lengths change. A gleaming green individual in spring may darken toward bronze or mottled brown in autumn, blending with the senescent foliage. These color morphs are more than camouflage. They are physiological shifts mediated by pigments and microstructural changes in the cuticle. By altering their appearance, shieldbugs track the palette of the environment, ensuring that their jewel-like bodies remain hidden within the shifting canvas of the forest. On closer inspection, the shieldbug's cuticle reveals another remarkable feature. Its surface is etched with microtextures, patterns invisible to the naked eye, but crucial for survival. These textures minimize the adhesion of water and dirt, allowing raindrops to bead and roll away. In a storm, while larger insects are drenched and weighed down, the shieldbug remains dry, its shield glistening with tiny spheres of water that vanish as quickly as they appear. This self-cleaning surface, known in physics as the lotus effect, is mirrored in modern engineering, inspiring materials that repel water and resist grime. Evolution's quiet innovations often precede human invention by millions of years. But how does this armor and chemical weaponry hold against real predation? The answer unfolds on a humid afternoon when a wandering spider approaches. The spider, its body low and legs poised, advances across the leaf surface with deliberate precision. Its silk dragline trails behind, securing each step. The shieldbug remains motionless at first, relying on its geometry to appear as just another blotch of color on the leaf. Yet the predator draws nearer, forelegs raised in readiness. At the final moment, the shieldbug performs a calculated maneuver. It rotates its body so that the scutellum faces squarely toward the spider's advance. The angle of the shield denies an easy grip. Then, with a twitch of the abdomen, the stink glands discharge a fine mist. The spider halts mid-step, recoils and rubs its palps in agitation. The encounter ends abruptly. The predator retreats, abandoning a meal it deems too costly. What seems like a small skirmish on a single leaf is in fact a reflection of countless evolutionary experiments. For millions of years, insects and their predators have danced in a cycle of adaptation and counter-adaptation. Armor leads to stronger beaks, chemical sprays lead to resistant palates. Yet the shieldbug persists, a lineage sustained not by a single defense, but by a layered strategy that combines hardness, chemistry, social signaling, and environmental attunement. Its very ordinariness within fields and forests belies the sophistication of its design. There is also irony in its resilience. Humans, with all our ingenuity, often fail to contain shieldbug populations when they turn to agriculture. Pesticides may eliminate some, but their generalist diets and hardy eggs allow them to recolonize swiftly. Their chemical defenses repel not only predators, but sometimes the very sprays meant to control them. In warmer regions, some shieldbug species have even shifted behaviors in response to climate change, expanding their ranges and altering seasonal rhythms. Far from fragile relics, they are active participants in the shifting landscapes of the Anthropocene. As twilight gathers over the hedgerow, the shieldbug withdraws deeper into the foliage. Its shielded form catches the last glimmer of light before fading into the mottled greens and browns of evening. For an insect scarcely larger than a fingernail, it carries the legacy of ancient battles. Armor shaped by the strikes of beaks, glands honed by the hunger of predators, and surfaces refined by the relentless force of rain and dust. To watch it rotate against a spider or bead water off its back is to witness survival not as a single trait, but as a mosaic of interlocking adaptations. The shieldbug, then, is not merely a creature of stink and shield. It is a living demonstration of how small bodies can balance fragility with resilience, how geometry can substitute for size, and how chemical whispers can serve both as defense and as alarm. It is, in every sense, an insect that carries its own fortress, a fortress that speaks in scent, gleams in light, and endures against the odds. And as the night settles over the leaves, the armored silhouette remains, waiting for the next test of its subtle yet formidable defenses. The midday sun presses down upon a dry field, its heat pooling over the cracked earth and shimmering against the brittle husks of cotton plants. Among the parched stalks, flashes of red and black disturb the monotony of dust and straw. At first they appear like embers, glowing fragments scattered across the pods. But on closer inspection, the sparks resolve into living columns, red cotton bugs, moving with determined rhythm across the bowls that once held the farmer's harvest. Their bodies are unmistakable, painted in vivid scarlet and jet. The wings form sharp geometric panels of color, as though stitched together from lacquered leather. Against the pale seed pods, the contrast is startling, almost theatrical. Yet there is no vanity in this attire. The scarlet and black pattern is a declaration, a warning stitched into the very fabric of the insect's cuticle. It proclaims a message older than language, understood across continents by predators from birds to lizards. Danger lies within. This phenomenon is known to science as aposematism, the use of bold colors to signal chemical unpalatability. The red cotton bug is laced with bitter compounds absorbed from its host plants, toxins stored in tissues and circulated through its body fluids. A bird that plucks one of these insects will gag, spit, and remember. For the bug, such encounters are rarely fatal. Most predators survive, but they learn. Each bright warning reduces the chance that the next insect in the colony will be tested. Evolution here plays not on individual survival alone, but on the collective benefit of conspicuous honesty. The cotton field is not silent. Cicadas buzz from nearby trees, their shrill choruses vibrating the air. But down in the seed pods, the red cotton bugs conduct their quieter, methodical routines. With their piercing mouth parts, stylets capable of sliding like a needle through tough outer layers, they tap into the oil-rich seeds hidden within. Each thrust is deliberate. Saliva, laced with digestive enzymes, liquefies the interior of the seed. A muscular pump in the head then draws the nutrient soup upward, feeding the insect with the concentrated energy of plant reproduction. What was meant to fuel the germination of new cotton is instead diverted into the bodies of these small scarlet thieves. Feeding is often communal. Dozens of nymphs cluster at a single pod, their smaller bodies crowding together in a tight mosaic. Aggregation is more than convenience, it is strategy. By huddling in groups, they share warmth, reducing the metabolic cost of thermoregulation in cool mornings. Crowding also multiplies the visual effect of their warning colors. a single red dot might be overlooked or doubted by a predator. A column of dozens transforms into an undeniable banner of toxicity, a living barricade painted in alarm tones. As the season advances, the nymphs mature, molting through successive stages until their wings harden into the glossy scarlet of adulthood. It is during this phase that another striking behavior appears, the pair bond train. Males and females couple end to end, their abdomens fused in copulation and remain joined not for minutes but for hours, sometimes even days. They continue to walk in tandem, two bodies pulling in opposite directions, yet bound by reproductive necessity. The purpose is partly mechanical, ensuring successful sperm transfer, but it also serves as a strategy of mate guarding. By remaining physically linked, the male prevents rivals from accessing the female, securing his genetic investment. To human eyes, these slow-moving trains are almost comical, yet in the ruthless economy of insect reproduction, they are effective. But the red cotton bug's scarlet message does not act alone. Across the tropics, many other true bugs, members of the same broad family, wear the same palette of red and black. Firebugs on lime trees, milkweed bugs on their toxic hosts, even assassin bugs with venomous bites echo the same colors. This is no coincidence. Through a process called Mullerian mimicry, multiple species converge on the same warning pattern. Predators, encountering any one of them, learn to associate the palette with danger. The burden of teaching is shared. Each failed strike educates a predator not just about one species, but about the entire guild of scarlet and black insects. The cost of survival is spread across a community, reducing the individual sacrifice required. The efficiency of this mimicry is visible in the field. A starling swoops low, its sharp eye catching the movement on a pod. It darts its beak forward, snatches a bug, and immediately flings it aside, wiping its tongue against a stem with evident distaste. The colony freezes, but does not scatter. They know that the bird will not return quickly. One insect's loss has educated the predator for dozens more. The red cotton bugs continue their march, unhurried, their collective defense strengthened by the lesson. The ecological role of these insects extends beyond predator-prey interactions. By feeding on seeds, they alter plant reproductive success, thinning seed banks and influencing which plants persist. In agro-ecosystems, their presence often carries a negative reputation. Farmers view them as pests, reducing yields and damaging crops. Yet in wild landscapes, they contribute to the complex dynamics of seed dispersal and competition, trimming some species while leaving others to flourish. In this sense, the scarlet bugs are not intruders, but participants in the ecological balance, shaping plant communities through the quiet theft of seeds. Their physiology, too, reveals a tale of adaptation. The bright pigments of their cuticle are not simple dyes, but complex compounds layered with microstructures that scatter light, producing hues both intense and durable. These same surfaces are coated with waxes that reduce water loss, an essential feature in the sun-baked habitats they often occupy. In the shimmering heat of midday, the bugs do not desiccate as quickly as more delicate insects. Their exoskeleton functions not just as armor, but as a microclimate regulator, shielding them from both predators and the elements. When the afternoon shadows stretch and the heat begins to soften, the colony shifts position. Individuals climb higher onto the pods, exposing themselves fully to the fading light. Here, they bask together, absorbing warmth that will sustain their nocturnal metabolism. The sight of dozens aligned on a single stalk, scarlet wings gleaming against the gold of dusk, is both unsettling and beautiful. To the human observer, it may appear as if the plant itself has erupted in a rash of living color. To the bugs, it is another layer of collective defense, strength in numbers, visibility as deterrence. As night falls, predators of another kind stir, frogs from the irrigation ditches, geckos from the farmhouse walls. Yet even here, the scarlet warning holds power. The first strike is often the last, each amphibian or reptile quickly learning that the bitter taste is not worth repeating. The bugs endure, continuing their cycle, pairing, feeding, and guarding their seed-rich resource. The red cotton bug may not inspire the same awe as a towering stag beetle or the iridescence of a jewel beetle, Its movements are not majestic, its flights are brief and ungainly. But its strategy is elegant in its simplicity. Declare what you are, and let the predators do the math. Through color, chemistry, and cooperation, it secures a place in ecosystems both wild and cultivated. And in doing so, it reminds us that survival is not always about hiding, nor about strength of arms, but sometimes about the courage of standing out. Scarlet warnings, painted boldly against the pale husks of the world. The forest stills and then it begins. A tremor in the air, faint at first, swells into a wall of sound that rolls across the canopy like a living tide. The chorus of cicadas is unlike any other animal broadcast, a relentless metallic drone, pulsing in waves, modulating in rhythm, and surging in volume until it drowns every other voice of the ecosystem. Leaves tremble with the vibration, and the air itself seems to shimmer. For many listeners, it is deafening. For the cicadas, it is language, advertisement, and survival distilled into sound. At the center of each call lies a tiny, intricate organ, the tymbal. Located on the sides of the abdomen, these membranes buckle inward when pulled by powerful muscles. With each contraction, the tymbal snaps back, producing a sharp click. But a cicada does not click once. It contracts and releases its tymbals dozens to hundreds of times per second. The result is a continuous buzz, amplified by air sacs within the abdomen that act as resonating chambers. These tracheal sacs, usually meant for breathing, double as amplifiers, turning a small muscular twitch into a broadcast that can carry hundreds of meters through dense woodland. The physics of this sound are remarkable. Unlike crickets, which scrape wings together, cicadas employ a mechanism closer to a drum. Each click is rapid and percussive, yet repeated so quickly that the human ear perceives only a sustained tone. Different species tune their tymbals to distinct frequencies, creating layered soundscapes where multiple calls overlap but remain distinguishable. To females of the same species, these vibrations are not noise but code. Each frequency, rhythm, and phrase conveys the fitness of the caller. Larger males with more powerful muscles can produce louder, more resonant calls. Thus, the very mechanics of sound production become a signal of vitality, woven into the fabric of sexual selection. The call is the culmination of years of preparation. For most of their lives, cicadas are invisible. As nymphs, they dwell underground, feeding on the diluted sap of tree roots. Their stylets tap into the xylem, extracting a thin trickle of water and dissolved minerals. It is a meager diet, yet one that can be sustained indefinitely, allowing them to persist for years in the soil. Some species remain hidden for only 2 or 3 years. Others, like the famous periodical cicadas of North America, synchronize their emergence after 13 or 17 years. Such timing is not arbitrary. It is evolution's arithmetic, cycles based on prime numbers that reduce the chances of overlapping with the life cycles of predators. This strategy, known as predator satiation, is among the most extraordinary in nature. When the cicadas finally surface, they do so not in dozens or hundreds, but in millions. The sudden abundance overwhelms every predator in the landscape. Birds gorge themselves to gluttony, mantises grasp cicadas until their forelegs can hold no more, and fish feast on those that fall into streams. Yet for all the predation, the majority survive. The numerical flood ensures that no predator can possibly consume them all. Survival here is not about the strength of individuals, but about the sheer power of numbers, a strategy written in the mathematics of emergence. The moment of emergence is dramatic. On warm summer nights, nymphs climb from the soil and ascend nearby trees. Their bodies, pale and swollen from their subterranean existence, cling to bark as they split their exoskeletons. Slowly, the adult cicadas pull themselves free, wings unfolding in fragile, glassy fans that glisten in the moonlight. The process takes hours, and during this vulnerable stage, many fall prey to waiting predators. But those that succeed harden into the armored forms of adulthood, their wings stiffening into transparent shields veined like stained glass. Within days, they join the chorus, contributing their own vibrations to the collective storm of sound. Predation is both inevitable and essential. A mantis crouched on a branch waits motionless until the vibration of wings betrays a landing. With a strike faster than the blink of an eye, it impales the cicada on its spined forelegs, beginning to feed even as the insect buzzes in protest. In the canopy above, orioles and cuckoos pluck cicadas in quick succession, stuffing beaks with the fat-bodied prey to deliver to their nestlings. On the forest floor, opportunistic mammals such as raccoons or mongooses scavenge the fallen. For these predators, cicada emergencies are windfalls, pulses of protein that fuel reproduction and growth. The deaths of millions sustain the lives of countless others. Yet despite the carnage, the balance tilts in favor of the cicadas. Their overwhelming numbers guarantee that enough survive to reproduce. Females, silent and cryptic, respond to male calls by positioning themselves on branches where mating can occur. After coupling, they use saw-like ovipositors to insert eggs into the twigs of trees. Weeks later, the eggs hatch into tiny nymphs, which drop to the soil and burrow underground, beginning the cycle anew. What looks like the sudden arrival of millions of insects is, in truth, the brief flowering of a generation that has been maturing in silence for more than a decade. The timing of emergence is not governed solely by the calendar of years, but by the subtle cues of temperature. Soil warmth at 20 degrees Celsius is often the trigger, telling the nymphs that conditions above ground are favorable. This sensitivity means that cicadas are intimately tied to climate, their life cycles vulnerable to shifts in seasonal rhythms. In cities where heat islands elevate ground temperatures, emergencies may occur earlier than in surrounding countryside. Urban cicadas sometimes call weeks ahead of their rural counterparts, their clocks disrupted by the artificial warmth of asphalt and concrete. Even within a single day, temperature sculpts behavior. The chorus rises and falls with the heat of the sun, peaking in the sweltering hours of midday when the tymbal muscles contract most efficiently. Each species maps its calls to a thermal niche, creating geographic mosaics of sound. In one valley, the drone may begin at dawn, in another only at dusk, each population tuning its rhythm to the microclimate. To researchers, these patterns form acoustic maps of the landscape, revealing not just where cicadas live, but how they sense and respond to their environment. For human cultures, cicadas have long been symbols of transformation and rebirth, their sudden appearances marking the passage of seasons. Yet beneath the folklore lies a deeper ecological truth. These insects are timekeepers, their bodies shaped by evolutionary mathematics and environmental rhythms. They are clocks hidden beneath the soil, measuring years in silence before erupting into sound. They are drummers, using hollow organs to fill forests with vibrations that shape mating success. And they are numbers incarnate, demonstrating how survival can be achieved not through strength or stealth, but through overwhelming abundance. As dusk falls, the chorus does not diminish but swells again, echoing across fields and rivers. The sound is relentless, a reminder that billions of years of evolution can manifest in a simple yet astonishing strategy: hide, wait, emerge together, and sing with all the power that air and muscle can provide. The cicada's clocks and drums converge, their numbers rewriting the very balance of predator and prey. And in the heat of a summer night, when the wall of sound seems to come from every direction at once, it becomes clear that this is not noise, but survival made audible, a grand performance staged by insects that have mastered the art of time. In the dim corridors of a banana grove, twilight settles with a heavy hush. The broad leaves sag beneath the weight of the humid evening, their surfaces mottled with the last glints of sunlight filtering through the canopy. The air is rich with the scent of fermenting fruit and damp soil. Here, in this half-light where daytime hunters retreat and night predators have yet to take full command, another creature takes to the air. Its flight is deliberate, slow, almost ponderous, yet the presence it carries is unmistakable. An owl butterfly, one of the largest butterflies in the Americas, drifting like a shadow given wings. At rest, it appears almost unremarkable. The outer wings are painted in muted browns and greys, streaked with cryptic lines that echo the textures of bark. Against a tree trunk, the butterfly dissolves into invisibility, indistinguishable from the ridged surfaces and lichen-streaked crevices. But when disturbed, it performs a reveal as dramatic as any in nature. With a sudden flash, the wings flip outward, and a pair of enormous eyespots stares back at the world. Each hindwing carries a near-perfect illusion of an owl's gaze, rounded discs of black ringed with gold, gleaming with highlights that mimic the wet glint of a cornea. For a predator expecting a harmless insect, the transformation is startling. This display is not a bluff in the human sense of deceit, but an evolutionary adaptation of perception. Predators in twilight forests often rely on quick recognition, the silhouette of prey, the gleam of eyes. To them, the eyespots are not abstract patterns but urgent signals. A small bird darting in for a strike suddenly finds itself confronted with the gaze of a much larger predator. The hesitation, even if momentary, is enough for the butterfly to slip away into deeper shadow. In this instance, survival hinges not on strength or speed, but on the manipulation of perception. The eyespots are layered defenses. Not only do they startle, but their placement at the wing margins directs strikes away from the butterfly's core. Birds that ignore the bluff may peck at the spots themselves, tearing holes through the wings rather than piercing the thorax or abdomen. Many wild owl butterflies bear such scars, frayed edges and punctures where the false eyes absorbed an attack. The insect survives, its ability to fly diminished but intact. In this way, the wings become sacrificial decoys, expendable tissues that buy time for the body to endure. Owl butterflies navigate the delicate balance between visibility and concealment. Their flight occurs not under the full blaze of daylight, when raptors dominate the skies, nor under full darkness, when bats sweep the night. Instead, they exploit crepuscular windows, those brief spans of dawn and dusk where light is low enough to hide their large silhouettes, yet sufficient to allow them to navigate. This temporal niche shields them from the worst of avian and nocturnal predation, an elegant example of how time itself can be a resource. By flying when others are least prepared, they avoid the heavy toll exacted upon more diurnal or nocturnal insects. The spectacle of the adult butterfly is only half the story. Beneath the leaves of the same banana grove lurks another stage of its life cycle, one no less adapted for survival. The larvae of owl butterflies are elongated, with pronounced horns at the head that curve outward like the antlers of a miniature beast. When disturbed, the caterpillar does not flee. Instead, it arches and sways its body in serpentine motions, the horns angled forward, the face elongating into a mimicry of a snake's profile. For small birds or lizards, this performance can be enough to trigger hesitation or retreat. Bluff upon bluff, the owl butterfly's lineage has stacked layers of deception across its life stages, investing in illusion as much as in physical defense. The larval diet reveals another facet of their ecological role. Feeding on banana leaves and other broad-leafed plants, they strip patches of green, reducing photosynthetic surface area. While agriculturalists often view them as pests, their presence in wild groves forms part of the ecological give and take between insects and plants. Defoliation may stress individual plants but rarely devastates entire stands. Moreover, the feeding supports a complex web of predators and parasitoids, wasps that inject eggs into the larvae, fungi that infect their tissues, and birds that pick them off leaves. Each larva that survives contributes not only to the butterfly's lineage, but to the broader energy economy of the forest. As adults, owl butterflies exhibit a behavior often overlooked in the romantic imagery of nectar-feeding butterflies. They rarely visit flowers. Instead, they are drawn to rotting fruit, especially bananas that split open in the humidity. Their proboscis probes deep into the fermenting pulp, siphoning juices rich in sugars and minerals. This adaptation frees them from direct competition with diurnal butterflies that rely on blossoms, and it situates them within a recycling niche, returning energy from decaying fruit into the wider food web. Where other butterflies are symbols of delicate pollination, owl butterflies are scavengers of sweetness, thriving on what the forest floor discards. Predator-prey interactions are not static contests, but dynamic arms races. Some birds have learned to look beyond the bluff, recognizing that a false eye on a wing does not bite back. Yet even in these cases, the evolutionary game continues. Owl butterflies may shift flight timing or populations with more realistic eye patterns may be favored, reinforcing the deception. Likewise, caterpillar horns that once deterred predators may gradually evolve into more exaggerated forms, keeping pace with the sharpening recognition of their enemies. What appears to be a frozen adaptation is, in reality, a moving target shaped by the constant pressure of survival. Temperature plays a hidden role in their activity. The crepuscular rhythm is not simply a matter of avoiding predators, but also of thermal balance. Large-bodied butterflies risk overheating under full sun, their broad wings acting as solar panels. By restricting flight to cooler hours, owl butterflies reduce metabolic stress. Their bodies operate within a narrow thermal window, and dusk flights ensure that muscles remain efficient without tipping into dangerous overheating. In this sense, time of day doubles as thermoregulation, the insect's schedule tuned as much by physiology as by predator avoidance. To witness an owl butterfly up close is to understand why it has earned its name. When the wings open, the illusion of a staring face is uncannily effective. The glint in the eye spot, a simple reflection of light on curved scales, mimics the moist sheen of vertebrate eyes. The concentric rings, darker at the center and fading outward, replicate the pattern of iris and sclera. For millions of years, natural selection has refined this mimicry, sculpting scales not merely for color, but for the architecture of deception. What predators see is not fabric of scales, but the phantom of another hunter, conjured in an instant from the canvas of wings. As night deepens in the grove, the butterflies retreat to their perches, wings folded in cryptic silence against bark. The forest belongs now to bats, to moths, and to the endless chorus of insects unseen. Yet the owl butterfly remains poised between these worlds. Its defense is rooted in the ancient anxieties of the predator's gaze. It survives not by hiding entirely, nor by confronting directly, but by turning vision against itself. The forest is filled with eyes, watchful, searching, predatory. The owl butterfly endures because it has mastered the art of staring back. In its life cycle, in its flight, in its patterns, the owl butterfly teaches a lesson about survival in plain sight. Deception is not weakness but strategy. Fragility is balanced by illusion. And in the fleeting hours of twilight, when shadows lengthen and the air thickens with possibility, the sudden flash of those eye spots remains one of the forest's most startling performances. A gaze conjured from wings, powerful enough to stall death, if only for the moments needed to slip away. At first light, when the tropical sun spills over the edges of hedgerows, a sudden flash of color ignites the air. It is not the glint of dew nor the shimmer of leaves, but a living firebrand, the leopard lacewing butterfly, its wings erupting in serrated margins of orange, black, and white. The flight is swift and erratic, darting in quick jinks along the tangled greenery as though the butterfly itself were a restless spark. Its colors are not mere decoration. They are signals, warnings, and messages carried on fragile scales that cloak a body both delicate and armed with chemical secrets. The wings themselves are canvases of warning. The forewings blaze with orange and black, while the hind wings display intricate lace-like borders, each edge jagged with serrations that resemble torn fabric. To the human eye, the pattern is artful. To predators, it is aposematic, a stark palette announcing danger. The source of this defense lies not in the butterfly's adult diet, but in its larval past. Leopard lacewing caterpillars feed on passion vines, plants armed with toxic compounds known as cyanogenic glycosides. Rather than succumbing, the larvae sequester these toxins into their tissues, storing them like invisible armor. When they metamorphose, the adults retain the bitter chemicals, advertising their distastefulness with every flash of orange and black. A bird that samples one quickly learns to avoid the pattern, sparing not only that individual, but countless others in the population. Yet not every leopard lacewing wears the same colors. This species exhibits striking sexual dimorphism, meaning males and females bear distinctly different appearances. The males are flamboyant, their wings painted in vivid oranges, punctuated with black bars and white accents. They patrol hedgerows like living banners, their brightness both a deterrent to predators and an attraction to females. The females, by contrast, wear subtler tones, paler, with more muted patches of grey and white. Their wings seem washed of the fiery palette, favoring camouflage over display. In evolutionary terms, this split reflects the different pressures each sex faces. Males benefit from conspicuousness, broadcasting both toxicity and vigor. Females, burdened with the task of laying eggs, gain more from survival through discretion, blending into foliage as they search for host plants. This divergence extends beyond color into behavior. Males are fiercely territorial, defending stretches of hedgerow or forest margin with surprising vigor. They chase intruders with sudden accelerations, banking in sharp angles that make their flight seem unpredictable. These aerial contests are less about physical combat and more about stamina and maneuverability. The butterfly that maintains control of a perch gains prime access to passing females, transforming a strip of hedgerow into a stage for reproductive competition. When a female does approach, the encounter shifts from aggression to display. The male courts with a ritualized dance that involves tail fanning, a sudden spreading of the hind wings that flashes their patterned undersides like a semaphore. In bursts of orange and black, the message is unmistakable, a declaration of fitness, vigor, and readiness. The display is both visual and aerodynamic, the wing movement sending vibrations through the air that the female can sense. Courtship in leopard lacewings is less about song or scent and more about the interplay of color and motion, a traffic signal of survival written into scale and wing beat. The story of the leopard lacewing is also one of geography and adaptation. Once confined to parts of South and Southeast Asia, the species has expanded its range, often hitchhiking along corridors of cultivated land where passion vines grow. In gardens and plantations, it finds both host plants for its larvae and nectar for its adults, thriving at the intersection of wild habitat and human cultivation. This adaptability underscores the butterfly's resilience, allowing it to persist even as natural forests fragment. Yet it also brings it into closer contact with human perception, where its beauty often overshadows the evolutionary story etched into its wings. The larvae themselves are worth a closer look. Spiny, reddish, and armored with bristling projections, they are as conspicuous as the adults, boldly parading their warning colors across host plants. When disturbed, they thrash or curl, but they rarely hide. Their confidence rests in the chemical deterrents they carry, making them distasteful mouthfuls for birds or reptiles. This continuity of defense, from larva to adult, ensures that predators learn to associate both stages with risk. Few insects maintain such consistency across metamorphosis, and in the lacewing's case, the strategy reinforces the power of aposematism. Predator-prey interactions reveal the layered subtleties of this design. A young bird, inexperienced and hungry, may strike at a male lacewing. The butterfly tumbles, wings torn, yet the predator quickly spits it out, gagging at the bitter taste. The bird survives, the butterfly perishes, but the evolutionary lesson spreads. From then on, the bird avoids not only leopard lacewings, but also other orange and black butterflies that share the same warning palette. The sacrifice of one reinforces the survival of many, a communal benefit embedded within individual risk. The jagged margins of the wings serve another function beyond aesthetics. By breaking the outline of the butterfly, they distort its silhouette, making it harder for predators to track its exact shape in flight. This dazzle camouflage, combined with rapid jinks and twists, makes interception difficult. Raptors that rely on precision strikes struggle to predict its path, and smaller predators lose sight of the fragmented outline against the background of leaves. In this way, the lacewing combines the paradoxical strategies of being both conspicuous and evasive, a bright target that is difficult to pin down. The dimorphism between sexes also creates ecological roles that are not identical. Females with their muted tones are better equipped for stealth as they search out passion vines in dense foliage. Their discretion reduces the risk of predation during egg-laying, ensuring the next generation finds a host. Males, in contrast, act almost as decoys, drawing predator attention with their flamboyant colors, while simultaneously reinforcing the warning system. In this duality, the species distributes survival strategies across gender lines, a division of labor written into wing scales. Temperature and time also shape the lacewing's behavior. In the cool hours of morning, individuals bask with wings spread, absorbing heat to fuel flight muscles. Their activity peaks under the full blaze of midday, when rivals are most visible and nectar is abundant. Yet as evening approaches, their brilliance fades into the background. The oranges deepen into shadowed reds, the blacks dissolve into the dimness, and the lacewings retreat to roost. Their day is bound to light not merely for visibility, but for the thermodynamics of muscle function, their bodies tuned to the rhythms of sun and shadow. In a broader evolutionary context, the leopard lacewing exemplifies how warning coloration and sexual dimorphism intertwine. Its palette of toxic paint declares danger to would-be predators, while the divergence of male and female forms illustrates how reproduction shapes visibility. Its territorial flights and courtship flashes transform color from mere warning into a dynamic language of competition and choice. Each behavior, each shade of orange, is a survival adaptation encoded not only in genes, but in the shifting balances of predator pressure, mate preference, and environmental change. In the tangle of hedgerows, as the afternoon sun slants low, a male leopard lacewing hovers briefly, wings blazing like shards of flame against green. He darts forward, chasing a rival, then pauses to fan his wings in a staccato burst, an urgent signal in the traffic of the living world. Here is an insect that thrives by standing out, that transforms chemical bitterness into spectacle, and that divides survival strategies between the bold and the discreet. The lacewing's beauty is not an accident of design, but a deliberate, evolutionary performance, painted in toxins and displayed on serrated wings. And as the day gives way to night, the hedgerow still seems lit with its memory, bright sparks of orange dancing briefly before being swallowed by the dusk. The leopard lacewing disappears, but its message remains. Danger wears bright colors, survival is written in contrast, and in the fleeting brilliance of a butterfly's wings, evolution reveals both its caution and its daring. On a summer morning, the milkweed patch is alive with quiet industry. Beneath the broad leaves, a striped caterpillar inches along, bands of yellow, black, and white pulsing as it chews steadily through its toxic host. Its appetite is relentless, each leaf skeletonized by the gnawing jaws. Within weeks, the larva will multiply its weight thousands of times, storing the energy required for a transformation few other animals attempt. Then, when the time is right, it attaches itself upside down and stills. The skin splits, peels, and reveals a chrysalis, smooth, jade green, studded with golden flecks that gleam like scattered jewelry. Inside this capsule, tissues liquefy, muscles dissolve, and a body is remade. From the formless soup, an adult butterfly is sculpted, wings folded tight, colors hidden until emergence. The process is hidden from view, yet it is one of nature's most radical feats, metamorphosis, the rewriting of a body's blueprint. When the adult emerges, wings glistening and crumpled, it pumps fluid through delicate veins to unfurl them into wide orange sails. Soon the monarch takes its first flight, joining countless others in meadows, prairies, and gardens. Its orange and black patterning is as iconic as it is functional, a warning. These colors advertise the chemical defenses accumulated as a caterpillar feeding on milkweed. The plant produces cardenolides, potent toxins that disrupt cellular ion pumps in vertebrates. Monarch larvae store these compounds in their tissues, carrying them into adulthood. Birds that attempt to swallow a monarch retch violently, associating the bright wings with bitter sickness. Like the leopard lacewing or the red cotton bug, the monarch survives by wearing its danger as a badge of warning. But the monarch's story does not end with metamorphosis or chemical defense. Its most extraordinary feat is not what it eats or how it transforms, but where it goes. Monarch butterflies undertake one of the longest migrations in the insect world, a continental relay that stretches across thousands of kilometers. Each autumn in North America, the butterflies abandon northern breeding grounds and travel southward toward a handful of mountain forests in central Mexico. The sight of millions of monarchs clustering on oyamel fir trees is staggering, trunks coated in living orange, branches sagging under the weight of wings. The journey covers distances so immense that no single butterfly completes the round trip. Instead, the migration unfolds across multiple generations, a living chain that links seasons together. How does such a fragile creature navigate a continent? The answer lies within its brain and body, where evolution has layered together mechanisms of orientation. Monarchs possess a sun compass, a neural ability to track the position of the sun across the sky. This compass is paired with an internal circadian clock that compensates for the sun's shifting position throughout the day. Without this correction, the butterfly would veer west in the morning and east in the evening. But by aligning its clock with the solar movement, it maintains a steady southward bearing. This compass is not infallible. On overcast days, when the sun disappears behind clouds, monarchs employ another tool: sensitivity to Earth's magnetic field. Specialized molecules likely located in the antennae allow them to sense geomagnetic cues as a backup navigation system. Thus, between light and magnetism, time and space, monarchs carry within their bodies a dual compass that rivals the navigation of any migratory bird. The scale of this migration produces striking scenes of survival and loss. Along the route, predators exploit the flood of orange wings. Praying mantises snatch adults from flowers, spiders weave webs that glisten with trapped migrants, and birds, though wary of the toxins, occasionally test and discard. Yet just as with cicadas, survival is a matter of numbers. Millions perish, but millions more endure, ensuring that the migration continues. The challenges are not only biological, but also ecological. Migration depends on a chain of resources spread across the continent. In summer breeding grounds, milkweed is essential. Without it, the larvae cannot feed, and the next generation fails. Along the migratory path, roadside flowers and prairie remnants provide nectar to fuel flight. In wintering sites, the dense fir forests provide the precise microclimate required, cool enough to slow metabolism, yet not so cold as to freeze. Each link is critical. Remove one, and the chain weakens. Modern landscapes place this chain under pressure. Herbicide use in agriculture reduces milkweed from fields, stripping caterpillars of their only food source. Pesticides, broad in their reach, poison not only crop pests but also the monarchs themselves. Roadside mowing removes flowering plants just when migrants need nectar refueling stations. Even climate change adds weight to the burden. Shifts in temperature can disrupt timing, sending butterflies north too early or forcing them south before they are ready. Heat waves stress the delicate physiology of adults, while storms in wintering grounds can decimate entire colonies overnight. And yet, the monarch persists. Part of its resilience lies in its generational relay. The migration north from Mexico begins in spring with a single generation that lays eggs across Texas and the southern United States. Their offspring continue the journey further north, fanning across the Midwest and Canada. By summer, multiple generations occupy the breadth of the continent. Then, as autumn approaches, a special generation arises, the so-called Methuselah generation. Unlike their short-lived parents, which survive for only a few weeks, these butterflies live for up to 8 months. They are the ones that travel south, covering thousands of kilometers to reach the wintering grounds. Their endurance is the keystone of the migration, bridging the gap between one year and the next. The monarch's relationship with humans is paradoxical. It suffers from agricultural practices that strip milkweed and from pesticides that poison indiscriminately. Yet it also benefits from conservationists and gardeners who plant milkweed in backyards, restore prairies, and protect migratory corridors. Roadside flowers, once dismissed as weeds, now hold the key to continental survival. A monarch sipping from a cluster of asters on a highway verge may be fueling the very flight that carries it toward Mexico. In this way, small choices ripple outward across a migration that spans a continent. The spectacle of the wintering colonies is a reminder of both fragility and resilience. In the cool forests of Michoacán, oyamel firs are draped with millions of wings. When disturbed by a shaft of sunlight, the butterflies rise in a blizzard of orange, filling the air with the sound of countless wings beating at once. The sight is breathtaking, but it is also precarious. These forests, too, face threats from logging and climate shifts. The fate of the monarch is tied not only to milkweed in northern fields, but to trees rooted in distant mountains, linking farmers, gardeners, and forest dwellers across borders and biomes. In the end, the monarch butterfly is more than a symbol of beauty. It is a continental navigator, a creature whose survival depends on mathematics of sun and time, on chemistry of toxins and color, and on the fragile continuity of ecosystems stretched across thousands of kilometers. Its orange wings are not merely delicate ornaments, but maps, living compasses guided by both sky and earth. When one watches a monarch rise from a patch of milkweed, it is easy to see only a butterfly drifting on the breeze. But beneath the fragile surface lies a story of precision and endurance, a caterpillar that turned poison into protection, a brain that reads the sun like a clock, a lineage that stitches together generations to cross a continent. Each autumn, when the orange tide moves southward, the monarch reminds us that survival is not always the triumph of the individual, but the persistence of the many. It is migration written not in the flight of a single butterfly, but in the sweep of millions, all following a compass etched into their very being. At the edge of a clearing, where shafts of late afternoon light filter through the canopy, a vision glimmers in suspension. Against the backdrop of forest shadows, an orb of radiant gold hangs between tree trunks, each strand glowing as if woven from molten sunlight. It is not an illusion. The golden silk orb-weaver spins a web unlike any other, a structure so luminous that it seems both fragile and indestructible. This honeyed net is more than a trap. It is a living machine, engineered through millions of years of refinement, tuned to light, wind, and the delicate physics of adhesion. The color is not decorative. The golden hue of the silk has measurable consequences. To insect eyes tuned to ultraviolet and yellow wavelengths, the strands shimmer like the petals of flowers. Some pollinators, deceived by the glint, approach the web as if it were nectar. The sunlight itself transforms the web into bait, luring prey that might otherwise skirt around the danger. The hue also reduces the visibility of the web in certain lighting conditions, blending it into the glare of filtered sun. This paradox, being at once conspicuous and invisible, shows how evolution exploits perception to serve two masters: attraction and concealment. The web itself is a layered system. At its core are dragline threads, strong non-sticky silks that form the structural frame. These lines anchor the orb to branches and create the radial spokes that radiate outward like the ribs of a wheel. Between them lies the capture spiral, made of sticky silk coated with microscopic globules of adhesive. This spiral is the true trap. Its stickiness is not constant, but modulated by humidity, swelling with water vapor to maintain tackiness in damp air and stiffening in dry conditions. In this way, the orb-weaver's trap is not a static structure, but a responsive one, adjusting to environmental flux. Positioning is as important as construction. Golden silk orb-weavers often build their webs in natural wind corridors, narrow clearings, gaps between trunks, or the edges of trails. Insects flying through these channels are funneled into the trap. The web's elasticity ensures that even fast, heavy prey, beetles, dragonflies, or wasps, are absorbed into its lattice rather than breaking through. The spider herself sits at the hub, poised with legs extended, her body oriented to vibrations. Each tremor carries information: the size of the prey, the direction of struggle, the urgency of response. To her, the web is not just a trap, but a sensory extension of her body, amplifying her awareness of the space around her. When an insect collides, the choreography begins. The spider rushes toward the thrashing victim, her long legs keeping her safely above the sticky spiral. She deploys a rapid wrapping maneuver, spinning silk from her hind spinnerets while rotating the prey into a cocoon. The movements are practiced, economical and swift, reducing the insect's flailing to muffled spasms. Then comes the venom jab. With a precise bite, she injects neurotoxins that paralyze and digestive enzymes that begin the slow process of liquefaction. The prey is hung aside, suspended like a grotesque fruit, to be drained later when hunger demands. Insects that stumble into this golden snare rarely escape. The adhesive droplets cling to the microhairs on their bodies, adhering more tightly the more they struggle. Yet the orb-weaver herself can move with impunity across her web, her feet equipped with oil-secreting pads that prevent adhesion. She alone among the passing multitude of wings and legs is immune to the trap, its architect and sole master. The female golden silk orb-weaver is an imposing figure, her body sometimes stretching over 7 centimeters, with long legs banded in yellow and black. She is the ruler of her golden fortress, the hunter at its center. Yet her life is shared with a curious companion. The male, dwarfed in comparison, often no more than 1/5 her size. This extreme sexual dimorphism is not a coincidence but an evolutionary compromise. Small males expend less energy in development and are more agile in sneaking onto the female's web. Their miniature size reduces the chance of being mistaken for prey, though it never eliminates the risk entirely. Courtship, therefore, is a perilous venture. A male approaching the web must signal his intentions with care. He plucks at the strands with rhythmic vibrations, a coded message meant to distinguish him from struggling prey. Even then, many females respond aggressively, lunging toward him as if he were a moth ensnared in the spiral. Successful males persist, retreating and advancing, sending vibrations until the female permits his presence. The risk of cannibalism is ever present. Some females consume their suitors before or after mating, drawing sustenance from the very partner who carried her genetic legacy. In this precarious dance, reproduction is both triumph and sacrifice, a reminder that survival in the spider's world is rarely free of cost. The golden silk orb-weaver's influence extends beyond its immediate prey. The webs alter insect flight paths, shaping the movement of pollinators and pests alike. Old webs, tattered by storms or laden with debris, are often consumed by the spider herself. She reabsorbs the proteins and spins them anew, recycling her architecture with efficiency unmatched by human engineering. Each dawn may see the reconstruction of the orb, shimmering fresh in the morning light, a cathedral of silk rebuilt with nightly dedication. Predators, too, are drawn into this equation. Birds occasionally harvest webs to line their nests, benefiting from the silk's strength and insulation. Wasps, bold hunters themselves, may raid the orb for the spider rather than her prey. Even humans have marveled at the silk. Its tensile strength surpasses steel of equivalent thickness, and its flexibility outmatches most synthetic fibers. In some cultures, golden silk has been woven into textiles, shimmering garments created from thousands of harvested webs. Yet no loom has matched the spider's mastery. Each orb is spun with precision, geometry, and adaptive responsiveness beyond the reach of human machines. The golden silk orb-weaver also embodies the intersection of light and ecology. At low sun, when rays strike at shallow angles, her web ignites, strands glowing in amber hues that captivate human eyes and lure insect ones. The physics of this coloration lie in microscopic structures within the silk, which scatter light in selective wavelengths. What we see as beauty is, in ecological terms, strategy. The golden web is not decoration but deception, turning light itself into bait. At night, the drama shifts. Moths drawn by moonlight drift into the net, their wings clattering against the spiral as they attempt to pull free. The orb-weaver, sensing the tremors, responds with her practiced choreography. Rush, wrap, jab, hang. Predators of the darkness, the owls, the bats, rarely notice the spectacle within the branches. Yet the golden silk orb-weaver continues her harvest, unseen but relentless, turning the forest's abundance into her private economy. As dawn approaches, dew gathers on the strands, each droplet magnifying the silk's sheen. The web becomes a jeweled lattice, fragile yet enduring, ready to begin its cycle anew. The female waits at the hub, her legs splayed, her senses tuned to the faintest vibration. Around her the forest stirs with awakening life, unaware of the golden trap suspended in their midst. The golden silk orb-weaver teaches us that survival is not always about brute force or speed. It is about architecture, chemistry, and perception, the ability to weave light into bait, to transform protein into steel, to recycle failure into new opportunity. It is about the tension between predator and prey, male and female, creation and destruction, all suspended in a shimmering net that glows like honey in the sun. And when the light shifts, when the golden orb catches the eye just long enough to dazzle, we glimpse the genius of evolution rendered in silk, a fortress, a snare, and a stage for one of the forest's most enduring dramas. The pond at dawn is a mirror, a sheet of stillness broken only by the faint stirring of dragonflies above and the distant splash of a frog at the margins. On this surface, delicate figures begin to appear. They skate effortlessly across the water, their movements so light that they leave no wake, only dimples pressed into the surface film. These are water striders, members of the family Geridae, insects that live at the threshold between air and liquid, masters of a world where surface tension is both road and refuge. The illusion of walking on water is made possible by physics at the microscopic scale. Each leg of a water strider is covered with countless hydrophobic hairs, so fine and dense that they trap air in tiny cushions. When the insect presses down, the hairs repel the water, forcing the surface to bend without breaking. Each foot creates a shallow meniscus, a dimple that holds the insect aloft. For the strider, the pond is not liquid but trampoline, a flexible membrane stretched tight across the world below. This adaptation, though delicate in appearance, allows water striders to roam places where other predators falter, giving them access to a realm rich in prey, yet difficult to exploit. Locomotion here is a matter of controlled momentum. The middle legs, long and muscular, strike backward in synchronized strokes, propelling the insect forward with gliding ease. The hind legs act as rudders, steering and stabilizing, while the short forelegs remain poised for capture. Each movement sends ripples outward, concentric rings that shimmer in the low light. But these ripples are not accidents, they are language. Water striders communicate across the pond's surface by vibrating their legs against the film, sending pulses that travel as ripples. To the human eye, they appear as simple rings, indistinguishable from the marks of falling rain. But to the sensitive feet of other striders, the patterns are codes. A rapid burst of short pulses may signal aggression, a claim to territory. Slower, rhythmic beats serve as courtship songs, enticing females with vibrations that advertise the male's stamina. Even hunting carries its signature, sharp, abrupt pulses that warn others of a predator at work. The water's surface becomes a canvas of messages, a living telegraph where each insect writes with waves. Predation is a central theme in the life of a water strider. Despite their delicate frame, they are hunters of surprising efficiency. Their eyes set high on the head scan the shimmering world for the faintest disturbance. A drowning fly, a mosquito trapped in the surface film, these are signals of opportunity. The strider pivots, scoots laterally across the pond with sudden speed and closes the distance. In a fraction of a second, the forelegs clamp shut, spines digging into the struggling prey. Then the beak, a sharp proboscis, pierces the victim. Saliva laden with enzymes is injected, breaking down tissues from within. The prey is reduced to a liquid meal, sucked dry while still held against the water's skin. It is a brutal efficiency, a syringe harvesting the energy of others who dared to touch the surface. The prey of water striders are not limited to insects. Some species are bold enough to take small fish fry or tadpoles, immobilizing them at the surface where gills and lungs alike fail. Even here, the strider's adaptations prevail. Its light weight prevents it from breaking through, allowing it to exploit victims heavier than itself. In this way, the pond's delicate balance is shaped by hunters scarcely larger than a fingernail, predators that turn physics into weaponry. Yet life on the water is not without challenges. Rain can be catastrophic, each droplet a falling boulder that dents the surface. Wind, too, can distort the film into waves that sweep striders aside. Predators from above, birds, frogs, and dragonflies, view them as targets, the very visibility of their ripples betraying their position. Still, striders persist, their populations resilient in ponds, lakes, and streams across the world. Their strength lies not in invulnerability, but in numbers, adaptability, and the refinement of a niche few others can occupy. The reproductive lives of water striders add another layer of complexity. Males, small but persistent, signal to females with ripple patterns that differ from those of aggression. When accepted, they climb onto the female's back, sometimes remaining for extended periods. This mate guarding reduces the risk of rivals, but increases the danger from predators, as the pair is heavier and less agile. Females in turn choose mates based not only on the vibrational signals but also on persistence. The evolutionary balance is delicate. Males must invest enough energy to prove their worth, but not so much as to exhaust themselves before reproduction. The role of water striders extends beyond predation and reproduction. As surface hunters, they form a link between the aerial insects above and the aquatic life below. By capturing mosquitoes and flies, they regulate populations that might otherwise proliferate unchecked. In turn, they themselves are food for fish and amphibians, becoming part of a cycle that transfers energy across the pond's boundary. Their presence is both indicator and participant in the health of freshwater ecosystems. One of the most remarkable feats of water striders is their ability to climb the meniscus, the upward curve of water along solid surfaces. At the pond's edge, where a leaf floats half submerged, a strider approaches. Its body tips upward as the front legs grip the incline of the meniscus, pulling the insect toward the leaf. Each step deforms the surface slightly, creating a gradient of surface tension that the insect exploits. Gradually, with delicate balance, the strider ascends the invisible slope until it stands atop the leaf, its feet still dry, its body never once breaking through. In this act, the insect transcends the boundary it has mastered, moving from liquid mirror to solid perch with elegance born of physics and precision. The physics of strider locomotion and communication have even inspired human innovation. Engineers study the hydrophobic hairs of their legs for water-repellent materials, and their ripple language has been mimicked in robotics for surface-to-surface communication. Insects that once seemed insignificant have become models for solving problems of design, proof that evolution often anticipates the inventions of human technology. At sunset, the pond returns to shadow. The mirror darkens, and the strider's silhouettes vanish into the soft gleam of reflected sky. Yet the surface remains alive with messages, ripples spreading outward, intersecting and fading into silence. To the casual observer, it is only water disturbed by chance. But to the striders, it is a constant dialogue. Signals of life, threat, hunger and desire, written in waves too subtle for our eyes but perfectly clear to theirs. The water strider is an insect that thrives not by ignoring the boundaries of its world, but by mastering them. It walks where others drown, hunts where others falter, and speaks through vibrations that ripple across a surface as thin as thought. To see one glide across a pond is to glimpse the marriage of biology and physics, survival crafted through the quiet language of water. And in the end, its legacy is written not in ink or voice, but in circles that spread across stillness, writing on water, vanishing even as they endure.